Penn State football has some very important prospects in the class of 2023 that have come from Pittsburgh. So we're going to be talking to a guy that trains not just Lamont Payne and not just Tammy Robinson, but also pretty much every single athlete that's come out of Pittsburgh recently. DeWayne Brown of 2/10 Speed and Agility is coming up on the BWI Daily Edition. Always want to get a new perspective, want to learn something new about sports, about football, and somebody who trains some of the best athletes in Western Pennsylvania joining us on the BWI Daily Edition. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr, DeWayne Brown of 2/10 Speed and Agility. Welcome to the show. Thank you for making time for us today.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I want to get to know you a little bit before we get into, get to know your background, kind of your story before we get into some of those players that Penn State fans are interested in. So first off, what made you want to start training this way?
So when I came home from college, I wasn't a football player. I was a basketball player. And, came home, bought a house, got a job with Pittsburgh Public Schools, social worker. But I started to look around at the athletes in the area, and a lot of guys in the city, they didn't look the par. They didn't know how to run correctly. Didn't have the right explosiveness when they would go through drills. So I always was into my fitness. So I looked at how I get certified as a trainer, start working at Bally's. But working in that fitness industry, that wasn't my type of thing. So I just looked at the sports part of it. So around 2000, like 4 or 5, I ended up taking like $3,000. I saved up and I bought some sleds, some parachutes, and some bands, and I set up at Warrington Rec in Belsuver. And I got about 6 guys in the beginning, and then words start going around the city. Hey, there's this guy over in Belsuver, the neighborhood I'm from. He's training athletes. People at that time didn't really know really what it was. They thought kids were running around with garbage bags on their back instead of the parachutes. You know what I mean? And I looked at Todd Marinovich's dad at the time. He was the pioneer with that. Able to train without actually being in the weight room. So, using the hurdles, ladders, cones, different things like that. I kept doing it, being consistent, work my job, and I would meet up every day at that park, and kids would just start showing up. So I think it was around the 2008, 2009 time. I was able to get inside of a gym, Carrick High School, on Mondays and Wednesdays, and Thursdays I would do it at Alderdice during the wintertime. Around that time, around 2007, 2008, Jermaine Robinson, he ended up playing for Toledo, and then he ended up going to the Canadian Football League, and Ed Tinker. They were my first 2 D1, they had major offer products.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Then the year after that was John Wetzel. He ended up going to Boston College, and he ended up playing in the NFL. And then Will Clark. Will Clark ended up playing for West Virginia. He went to Alderdice, played 5 years for the Bengals. The 2010 class, you had Manessa Garner, ended up playing for the Redskins. He went to Pitt. Dayon Nunley, Miami, Ohio. Delbert Tyler, Hampton. Trey Hester. He was a little bit after that. He ended up going to Toledo. Greg McGee. He ended up going to Howard, being a quarterback. And then Aaron Donald. So that's the class he comes out of.
Mm-hmm. That obviously is the player you're most famous for training.
Right.
And I want to ask you about him in just a second, but you said something that kind of resonated with me that I find interesting. Having been to a couple of camps and prospect camps recently, I know what you mean when you say guys just don't know how to run. I had never seen this before. I was in my late 20s before my now wife told me then, hey, you don't know how to run.
Right.
So like there is a science behind sprinting.
Right.
So when you see an athlete, how many athletes do you see that you say that player has potential, but they don't know how to use it yet.
Right. Yeah. I see a lot. And then now it's to the level because even with me being down the indoor, so we get 150 to 180 kids speed training. And on a positional night, we get 250 to 300. So, and what happens is the kids work their way up. You get what I'm saying? You get to
Mm-hmm.
figure out who's who. There's kids in our program, they're going to the 8th grade running 11 once. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you this though, during that time period, so people don't realize Terry Smith was a great influence on what I did because at that time, that's when Terry Smith was at Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
So he would invite players out on Thursdays to come and do positional work. So what I would do was I would train my guys up just so they could go out on the Thursdays and do well. So Terry was a guy that would help a lot of kids, not only his Gateway kids, but around the whole area, Western Pennsylvania area. He was a forefather with that as far
Mm-hmm.
as getting other kids, not from his team, exposure. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then, you know what I mean? Because I joke with Kid Terry about this all the time, is that when I started training, I had to earn the credibility of the high school guys. You know what I mean? Because a lot of high school coaches don't like outside,
Right.
guys coming in. But I
Everyone
had to
has their own
earn
system. They have
right,
what they believe in. They don't want outside
right,
influences. Right.
right. But I had to earn that respect from, and which is good. You know what I mean? It's kind of different now. You got guys just pop up, but I had to earn respect. And once I start earning respect, and then the products I start putting out, that's why you're seeing guys, a lot of guys you see nationally come out of my program, and all the guys I got in the pros, because I had to learn, I had to earn the respect, and I also had to learn what these guys wanted in the recruits. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's the
Right.
same thing. Penn State, they have a certain guy that fits their mold. So now you're seeing a lot of guys coming out of 210 speed and agility that fit that mold. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yep.
Helps
Yep.
helps players to know what, even from, if you make the academic comparison, knowing what sort of courses you need to have to get into school, you need
Right.
to know what sort of skills you need to have to be recruited.
Right.
So that makes a ton of
Right.
sense. I want to go back to Aaron Donald though, because
Okay.
not only is he my favorite player to watch in the NFL, obviously like the best player on the planet.
Right.
And a lot of his talents come from his mobility and his ability to play faster than everybody else. So from a training perspective, what makes him different? And does he work harder than other people? What is I know that a lot of it is probably just what Aaron Donald is, but what makes him
Right.
so good?
So Aaron has a strong will to be the best. He don't like to lose. So I've had him with different running backs in the NFL, uh, and still in drills, Aaron's still finishing first. You know what I'm saying? He works like he's broke right now. People don't realize that. He works like he doesn't have any money. You know what I mean? And he starts out 200% in his drills. And when he at the end of the workout, he's at 100%. Where everybody
Mm-hmm.
else starts out 100%, they're at 30 and 20. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
he has a where his workout capacity is much larger, and that's because Aaron, what he looks like now, he transformed his body into that. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
Yeah.
Aaron enjoys the feeling of winning, and he does the feeling of being the best out there on the field. So he's not going to let that go. So my thing is, when I train him to be athletic. So you're going to see Aaron backpedaling, coming forward, doing stuff like untraditional stuff like a DB. But guess what? It works. You know what I
I've
mean? And
said
then
before, he's like a regular sized player that just
right,
is a defensive tackle. He's got all the skills
right,
to move in any direction. So yeah, that
right,
makes absolute sense from like his
right,
evaluation standpoint.
right. And so even with my training, I don't me personally me training. It's not like I'm like training. And my
Hmm.
thought process is like I'm I'm creating art, like I'm painting a picture. So I watch the movement of these athletes. That's why you see me doing a lot of open up, coming forward, and it's in sequence. You see how when you watch the training, everybody's in sequence. It's in formality.
Hmm.
So it's like I'm painting a picture and creating art with the with my training. Aaron basically was, for me, on a personal note, when he trains with me and those videos goes viral, it put my stamp as a trainer as being one of the best guys to go to around the country. You know what I mean? That's why
Yeah.
different guys come in now. So, yep, yep.
Another guy that I know we both like quite a bit, Jaquan Brisker. We talked a little bit about him when we
Right,
were setting this up. You just got done, as we're recording, working with him from an
right.
athletic standpoint. What do you see from Jaquan and how he fits what the NFL wants? You talk about what Penn State and their mold wants. My opinion is the NFL wants safeties that can cover like
Right,
corners. And I, personally,
right,
I see a lot of that in Jaquan. What is your
right.
opinion of him as an athlete and what you see in him?
Well, Jaquan, I don't even think you really seen what you're going to get. Like, the yet is best to come with Jaquan Brisker. I'm trying to tell you, because now Jaquan can focus on football totally. You see what I'm saying? He can really focus on the football aspect of it. And I really believe Jaquan's going to come in. He's going to make a great impact early, because he's another one. He loves the game. He has a will to be the best. He got that fire, that burning desire to be the best, and nothing's going to stop him. So, and he's focused. You get some guys that are in the NFL and they like everything that goes along with it. But then you just get some guys that love the game. And
Hmm.
Jaquan Brisker is one of those guys. He loves football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what he's going to do is not going to surprise me. It might surprise others. I really truly believe the Bears got a steal with him in the second round.
Yeah. We agree
Mm-hmm.
on that. And you talk about loving the game. Talking to him about film study, it feels like you're talking to a defensive coordinator because he knows
Right,
a lot of the things that maybe some of his peers haven't really picked up on.
right,
From a athletic perspective, and then I want to get into some of the guys that we teased earlier. From an
right,
athletic perspective, one of the things I'm most fascinated about, and we're talking to DeWayne Brown of 2/10 speed and agility, is the 40 time is one thing, and there's the technique of running the 40, but then there's
right,
just speed, right? So
right.
how do you get, and can you get, a player who isn't fast or maybe is sort of fast to be a fast athlete,
Right,
on
right,
the football field?
right. So that's all. So a lot of stuff that I do is 5 yard bursts. So where's the game played? Within
Yep.
5 yards. So I do a lot of quick twitch stuff where now when they get those drills down precise in the 5 yards, they're taking better angles. So one
Hmm.
thing when talking to Aaron, I asked him about different players. So, and he talked about Luke Kuechly. He said
Hmm.
Luke Kuechly, watching him, he never seen anybody take better angles on the field than him. He said he gets to the play so much faster than everyone else. And what I hear is Luke's one of these guys where he don't even turn the TV on. He just film study football when he played.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in my mind, when he told me that, I said, look, I got to find a way when I'm having these athletes here, get them play faster. So I start doing a lot of drills in a 5 yard burst, but rapid speed. You see what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
when I'm training, it's a competitive setting. So you're seeing that, i.e., Aaron Donald, the last drill against the Bengals, he did what we call icky shuffle. He went one way, went to the next, and he was able to get to the, to the quarterback. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So just like Brisker, when you see him backpedal coming forward, making plays behind the line of scrimmage. When you see a guy like a Miles Sanders, you know what I mean? When he's
Yeah.
going through the hole and he's breaking out. You know what I mean? The quick bursts. You'll see, Joey Porter, he trained with me also. Um, him sometimes he might be playing behind him, able to recover. Another kid like that up there that got great recovery ability, and he's like I always mess with him. is say that he's like a rubber band is Daquan Hardy. Daquan,
I knew you were going to mention him. I
yeah,
love
Daquan,
Jaquan. I love his
yeah,
skills. Yeah.
right. Daquan's like a rubber band. When I first saw him, he reminded me a lot of how Allen Iverson was, like
Mm,
thinner, but they could cover so much ground. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Cover so much ground, and that's DeQuay Hardy's another guy that I trained. He's like that. You know what I mean? He's like a elastic band. Like he could be beat. Next thing you know, he's making the play. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and he's coming along real good in his productivity up there at Penn State.
I'm glad you mentioned a couple corners here on Penn State's team because the next guy and one of the first players in the class of 2023 is in the on-3 ranking, a 3-star corner, Lamont Payne out of Pittsburgh. Had him here on the show. Really mature, focused, driven young man. Seemed like a great individual. From the athletic perspective, what do you think his strengths are as a football player?
Well, for him, he's real physical. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's a big corner. So right now, out of the DBs I've dealt with and trained, he's ahead of the curve as far as like what he does. And what Lamont does is Lamont never makes the same mistake twice. He takes information. He's like a computer. He can process it. He'll walk through it and he'll spit it back out. So in Penn State's scheme, he's perfect for the scheme. And he's ahead of a lot of the corners that I've trained before. Yes, because his brain is constantly working. And that's the thing. People are going to see when he gets up there, I already know it. There's some things you be like, well, how fast is he really? This is no, listen,
Mm-hmm.
Lamont, because the way you all play a lot of, I think it's boundary football, right? The
Yeah.
defense, is that
Yeah.
correct? He's going to fit perfectly into that scheme. Yes,
Yeah.
perfectly. Yep, perfectly. And he could
Uh,
play. The thing about him is he could play the corner, the nickel, and the safety.
Yeah, and that's been a part of the conversation about him because of that physicality and that length.
Right.
How long have you been working with him?
Ninth grade. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Ninth grade. Yep.
that's typical of guys that work with you. Is they work with you for a good period of time, right? So you really get to know them.
Right. Like a dude like DeMar Hamlin, he's been with me since he's been 9 years old. So he was a guy 9 years old. Miles was like 7th grade. He was with me 7th grade. I got some young kids now that will be going. I think they're coming up there for that last camp in
Hmm.
July, going to the 9th grade, some going to the 8th. You talk about the guys I got now. Some of these guys are so far ahead of the curve because we've gotten better as far as identifying and seeing what the coaches want. And now instead of like our guys are already by the time a lot of our guys are in 11th grade, they're college ready. You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying? They're
yeah.
college ready by the time they go to 11th grade. So that's why you see a lot of guys from Western Pennsylvania, the production in college and then eventually going to the pros is real high right now. And they're coming out of 210. So yeah.
So you mentioned how fast is he really with Lamont? Do you have a 40 time you want to share that he's run recently?
I know when the last one that I've heard of when he ran down Pitt, it was like a 4.52 or something like that. That was like last year. So
Hmm.
yeah, when he ran that down Pitt. So yep. I don't
That's a
know.
good
I couldn't
that's
tell
a
you.
good time for his
Right,
skill size and all those
right,
things. His ability. That's
right,
a good time.
right. And the worst case scenario for him is if he don't play, he's gonna end up because he's 190, so he'll play safety. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
What about Tamir Robinson, another guy that just committed to Penn State? I know he's been recovering from an injury, but what are
Right.
your views of him as an athlete?
So Tamir to me is the most versatile athlete that I ever trained.
You could say
So
that
he
again.
brings Yeah. So Tamir, what it is number one, foremost, he's a leader. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
He's a leader. Secondly, his value. So if you're going to look at a team, right, and you're like, well, who's the best guy on the team? Now, there might be one or two other guys they say is the best athlete, but who is the most valuable player? Tamir's probably going to be the number one guy because he can play all the linebacker positions. He can play DN, and the guy can go and cover wide receivers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
I know what you mean. I looked at his film and I saw him start at safety, play
right,
defensive end, cover a slot receiver, and then end up
right,
at linebacker in the third
right,
quarter of a game. So
right,
he checks all those boxes.
right. So when we first got him, he was a basketball player, and they put him out at safety because of his range.
Mm-hmm.
So we did reverse. You know, some of these kids, they start out as a linebacker, they got to go to safety. We
Mm-hmm.
reversed it. We had him taught him how to cover first when he was in ninth grade, then moved him down to the box because it's easier now. You get what I'm saying? To
Oh yeah,
cover the
yeah.
linebacker, the running backs, tight ends. He could do that. He's 6'4", 220, 225, running a 4.6, able to do that. Now, okay, now what we're gonna do lastly, I got him with Aaron, a couple other the guys. I had Justin Matabuga come in for the Ravens, Robert Nemakichi come in, train with me. I had him with the NFL guys, teaching him how to pass rush, adding
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one. There's a video out there on my Twitter with him and Aaron Donald doing teaching the pass rush. So now his value, now you're looking at a three down linebacker that on third downs, if you want to pass rush him, because we don't know if he's going to be 240, 250, you know what I'm saying, coming off the
Yeah.
edge, he could be like TJ Watt. You know what I mean?
I
So,
the other day,
yep,
when he committed to Penn State, my comment was, "How big do you want Tamir? Because he can be that big. He's just got
right,
that size and that ability."
right, right. And he ain't even filled out totally yet. And
Yeah,
personally, I don't know if he's still, I don't know, because it's like he grew another half an inch from the time he got injured. So I don't know if he's done growing yet.
yeah.
Yeah, he might
It's
end
an
up 6'6". Yeah.
he is an impressive athlete. Watching him play football, it'd be interesting to see how like you just said, how the rest of that story develops because he's got, as far as frames go, one of the best ones I've seen in a long time.
Right.
So I'm excited to see how he does this season. And I know you're not his doctor or anything, but he was at one of your camps recently. How is he progressing? What have you seen from him as far as that rehab process?
Yeah, he's basically I know he's been drilling a little bit. He's just waiting to totally get clear, and then he'll get with me. So, and then we'll see where that goes from there, as far as like how he feels. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I know when he gets to the next level, I mean, sky's the limit for the kid. You know what I mean? Sky's the limit for him. So
You mentioned Miles Sanders a little bit ago, former Penn State running back, Philadelphia Eagles running back. I saw a video on your Twitter feed of him working out with Quentin Martin, another Pittsburgh-area athlete, and a guy
right,
that
right,
has been called by people I know and trust the best athlete in Pennsylvania since Micah Parsons. Do you agree with
right.
that? Do you feel that that's true? And then what makes him so special?
So I couldn't tell you about Micah. So I would see Micah in the 7-on-7. So I can't say that. That's not for me
Gotcha.
to say that part right there, because Micah is totally, like, to me. Aaron got a couple years left. It's gonna be Micah Parsons. You know what I'm saying? The way this looks right now, the way it's turning into, in the NFL. But to me, I just think Quentin is more of an offensive type guy to me. I believe that he's a guy, you get him the ball in different ways, as far as, because he's a home run hitter. He's a guy you get the ball, get him 10, 15 touches. You know what I mean? He's scoring touchdowns. Because you see on his film, what's he got, like 21 straight touchdowns in a row on his
I
film or
skipped I
something like
skipped
that?
ahead in some of his film because it was just him running 70 yards, and I
Right,
didn't learn
right,
anything. He's fast.
right, right. And he has enough vision, and he can hit the crease coming up. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
and in today's game, the running back position, you got to be able to play slot. So that's what I'm saying. He has a lot of value. He's another one that has a lot of value because you can slot him out. You can put him as a receiver. You can put him at running back. Now, this is my personal opinion. He kind of reminds you in the mode, and a person I train. I don't know if he'll be that big, but and if you've seen in that video, he's moving just as quick as Miles was when they were cutting.
Hmm.
But he kind of reminds me of Najee in a way. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
gotcha.
Harris.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you know how they slot Najee out. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? They give him the ball. But for me, I don't think he would be a guy that you would constantly pound him. Maybe you put him more, giving him some reverses. You know what I mean? You just find a way you could get mismatches. He got a little bit of Najee and Percy Harvin kind of like in him. You know what I mean?
Kind of a slash
So
athlete.
yes,
Play a little
right,
receiver, play a little running back, get the
right.
ball in his hands. Gotcha.
Like what they're doing with Debo Samuels. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like what they're doing
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, in today's game, he's a type of guy. He has a lot of value, and that's what they're looking for. Yep.
So last thing, I asked you a bunch of athletes that we know about and a bunch of athletes that are committed to Penn State. But one of the things, I've heard you say previously is you're always excited to find the next guy, find the next
Right.
athlete that you can help and you can train and help change their lives by getting
Right.
them these opportunities. So who
Right.
are the names we need to know? Who are the young guys that you've got your eye on that you think are going to be the next wave?
Coming up. So you've got, of course, Specker. He's in there. Anthony Specker.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorite guys. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give you some guys in 8th grade, going to the 8th grade. So you got Richard Littlejohn. He's from Pittsburgh-area. You'll be hearing about him. Kind of like Tyler Boyd. You got Khalil Taylor. He's running 11-1 going to the 8th grade, about 175, 180. I can't remember the kid's name. Oh, Josiah Evans Collins. He's going to be a defensive end, going to the 9th grade, going to Westinghouse. Samaj Fuse. He already has Rutgers, Akron, Kent already, going to the 10th grade. Chris Black. So Chris Black is going to the 7th grade. I put him in front of Justin King, and Justin King couldn't believe how he already can break down defenses and can play corner and his focus. Justin seen him for himself. He was like, this kid is ridiculous. And there's another kid, Nelson Coleman. He's going to the 8th grade too. You got what's his name? Tavon Kershaw. He's a running back. He's from the Manassas area. He's going to the 9th. You have Diabre Lightfoot. He's going to the 9th grade. He's playing corner like a backer. He's going to Bell Vernon. He'll be getting varsity time. You got
I'm glad I've got this on record because you've gotten me through so many names that there's no way I would have remembered them if I didn't write them down. There's a lot of good athletes out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I could keep going. Yeah, there's going to be another tier, a group of guys coming up that you're going to be like, whoa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to stop. And then everybody, like I had the camp, you know what I mean? Camp, the top 150, and even the writers was there like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's not going to the whole pair, it's just not going to stop. I can't stop. It's like right now I've been doing it for so long, you know, and I just keep it going. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming on the BWI Daily Edition. We're talking to DeWayne Brown. He is 210 speed and agility training athletes out in Pittsburgh. Lots of them that you just heard, and some of them to come will eventually be Penn State athletes. So thanks for the time. Appreciate the insight.
All right. Appreciate you.
That'll do it today for the BWI Daily Edition. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and, of course, here on YouTube. I'm your host, Frank Carr. The recruiting show, I have to check with Ryan if he's back yet, if he's in his new home. We'll have a daily tomorrow no matter what, so just stay tuned.